As you have taken some time just to think about yesterday's game, and have you uncovered anything else about how you guys were able to turn the tides there in the second half of that game that was impressive to you?
Yeah, that game was rich with lessons. Obviously, a wild win. We should be really proud of the perseverance and the way we came back in the game. There's also lessons in how they were able to generate a 29-point lead. You know, there was definitely stretches of the second quarter that we could learn from, that we tried to learn from, that are important as well. You know, because we always want to have the confidence we can come back, but we also want to have the edge to understand that we can't let ourselves get into those types of holes and expect to win night after night. There's a reason that was a record. You know, it's really hard game to come back on. So there's a lot of good, there was a lot of learning, and that would have been the case even if we fell short.
Mark, Chet was. I know you mentioned this when you were just saying it. You acknowledged that he had a point at halftime, but he was giving you kudos for trusting him out of the half, drawing up a play for him, and sticking with him most of the way. Why is it? I know he's one of your best players, but why is it that you put that much trust in him to start the half and the rest of the way?
I mean, everybody, for the most part, we have a pretty inexperienced team. A lot of these situations are relatively new. I mean, we had a run last year, but these guys are young in their careers. Confidence in the playoffs can be fleeting, especially early in careers. And so I'm just trying to do, part of my job right now, I think, is to make sure that our guys are all maintaining peak confidence. You know, we have good players that when we're just who we are, it's enough to be a really good team. And anytime we kind of dip below that, I think I'm just trying to do everything I can to raise that back up on an individual level and on a team level. I was doing that with him last night. We'll need to continue to do that with multiple players and with the team as we go here.
And along those lines,
What's that?
Is SGA on the list of confidence you need to monitor?
He's a little more experienced, a little more seasoned, but even last night we tried to get him post-ups a little bit more, than in games 1 and 2, just because it's such a comfortable spot for him. He doesn't need quite as much nudging, but it's just kind of like you show the team, hey, here's our post spacing, but the signal's really like, hey, go find a couple of these. So it's everybody. Maybe he doesn't need it, but I'm still going to try to provide it, whether or not they need it or not.
You had mentioned before that this team's going to go through uncomfortable situations. That was about as uncomfortable as you can get, but you find a way to win. How does that help you guys out moving forward in the postseason?
Yeah, the playoffs take teams to the limit, and if you're fortunate enough to advance, you get taken to the limit more and more. That's just how it works, and it builds your muscle, it builds your mettle. It's how teams come together, and so that's a good experience for us, regardless of the outcome. Like I said after the game, I was impressed and pleased with the way that we kind of stood up together in the second half, our approach. That kind of builds a muscle whether or not you get the win or not, and the guys did a great job there.
Mark, the lineup that closed the game last night, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think that lineup played 16 regular season minutes together. I wonder why they played so seldom in the regular season together, and why you chose to go that way to end the game yesterday.
We try to create an environment with the lineups of fluidity where it shouldn't really matter too much who you're on the court with. If we're playing to our individual identities and if we're playing to a team identity, we should be able to plug different guys into those lineups and have them be in character. I don't even know that lineup played 16 minutes, if that's true. But I trust that, they go out there in that situation late in the game and they kind of know what to do. It's not like it's foreign. And I think things are fluid enough through the season and through seasons that, they're not out there thinking, man, I've only been out here 16 minutes with these guys. I think they're just out there competing together. And so I really don't worry about that too much, to be honest with you. We're just trying to figure out whatever's best for the team. Obviously, we needed to try to push a lot of different buttons last night.
Mark, sometimes in these playoff games, and last night was an example, your team collectively was in a little bit more foul trouble than they were in a regular season game. You've often talked about needing guys to play with aggressiveness even through foul trouble. What did you make of the way that your guys were able to maintain particularly defensive aggressiveness last night?
We just did a nice job of kind of adapting to the game, playing through it. Playoff games are physical. and then it's hard to kind of calibrate the whistle night to night. I watched the Warriors Houston game 2. I mean, that it was unbelievably physical. They that's a hard game to referee. So then you come into our game 3, and it's you try to figure out what the whistle's going to be like on that given night. We obviously ended up with a couple guys in foul trouble, but I thought we managed it well. I thought the guys that went in there helped us a lot, and then guys played through fouls pretty well as well.
Kind of following up on Joel, how valuable is lineup data to you, and like what lineup data do you find to be of value?
We play a lot of different lineups. We keep things fluid. That's by intent. We're trying to create, especially in the regular season, we're trying to create a little bit of instability and a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of fluidity for this situation. You don't want to end up in these series having to pull levers out of necessity that you haven't. That's a muscle you haven't built during the season. That's just our philosophy. It also helps the development of our players, not only the guys that are in and out. We talk a lot about Wiggins with that, and like Isaiah Joe, but also like guys like Shea that's playing every night, and Dub, Chet. They're getting used to having to play with a lot of different people and adapt to a lot of different people. That builds a certain muscle. We look at the lineup data, but more conceptually, it's not like, what is this 5-man lineup? It's kind of like when we have this archetype of lineup on the court, what can we expect? When we have when we go super small, we go 5 guards, we think we have a pretty clear idea of like what our trade-offs are there. Now, which 5 guards they are, that would really like spread out the data. But if you can clump them together, you can learn some things, and that's what we try to do.
Mark, curious about Isaiah coming in here as like a veteran guy. Obviously, there's the basketball fit, but how has his like cultural fit been with all these younger guys and him coming in as the vet?
Yeah, he's a badass. He's the man. He's awesome. He's a great locker room presence. I've said this about him and Caruso many times this year, but it's felt like they've been on the team for 3 years. They're such easy fits because they're so team-oriented. They're one of the guys. They want to be one of the guys. They have a great balance of veteran and experienced presence, and will use their voice in that way, but not in a overwhelming way. That can sometimes happen where somebody comes in and they have the floor, and everyone else has to, listen and take notes. They're not like that at all. They blend right into the team. They have a great balance of assertiveness with their game and their personality, and respect for the rest of the guys and where the rest of the guys are in their careers. Their emotional intelligence, those 2 guys, has been like out of this world. Very, very impressive.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coach, and that is a wrap for Thunder Media Available.